Today we're talking Mountain Jam. It's back.
The first thing you should bring is tickets.
Bring a tarp.
Bring a ground cover because it gets pretty wet.
Money, yeah, lots of money.
If you remember, Mountain Jam started back in 2005. It was a Warren Haynes thing with Radio Woodstock, celebrating the 25th anniversary of Radio Woodstock up in the Catskills. And with Warren's involvement, it became a huge thing. Allman Brothers played, Phil Lesh and Friends, Government Mule, obviously, really had a high level of talent, great curation, and it gained a reputation for being one of the, premier festivals on the circuit in those early years. Over the years, it continued to grow. Then in 2019, they moved it to Bethel Woods, and that was a one-time only thing because the next year, the pandemic, made them go on hiatus, whether they wanted to or not. And now it's been 6 years since it was, but it's back at the Belleayre Mountain Ski Center in High Mount, New York. And wow, a little bit different, not as jam-centric. You can see there the lineup. Obviously, it's not all top jam band things. Of course, there are some thrown in there. There's some jam grass. Karina's in there. Obviously, Joe Russo's almost dead. The Saturday show, though, was fantastic. I can't wait to talk about that. I'll get into that. And then Sunday, obviously, you have your jam things, your Dogs in a Pile, your Mo, and that Goose band. So let's jump into Friday and the first band, Upstate. I can't think of a more perfect way to open up Mountain Jam than Upstate. They are one of the most quietly thrilling bands out there that probably a lot of people haven't heard of. They blend folk, jazz, soul, and roots into something that's distinctly their own. And they rolled into this performance on a wave of momentum. They had a handful of brand new songs. They opened up the night strong with Healing and I'll Come Around, two brand new cuts that showcase a band deep in their creative stride. And they sound solid, really good stuff. They aren't throwaway debuts. They're dialed in, emotionally resonant songs that already feel lived in. As the set unfolded, we got no less than 4 other new tracks, each carrying that signature Upstate blend of tight vocal harmonies and lyrical vulnerability. There's a new one in the 4th slot with a lyrical refrain around Just a Reckoning. It's raw and reflective, followed by another debut in the 5th slot, and then a 7th song that leaned into some soulful territory. Then came Lovers and Friends, which is a favorite of mine. It's such a beautiful song, such a beautiful sentiment. And then we get Mary Webster stepping up to do Angel from Montgomery, and she really gives Bonnie Raitt and Susan Tedeschi a run for their money with it. 9th song in, another new one called that I labeled as Better Slow Down. I don't believe they told us the title. One of the standouts of the night. And they closed with Metaxi, a track that perfectly encapsulates their sound, thoughtful, layered, and deceptively complex. But what stood out most beyond the debuts themselves was the confidence behind them. These new songs show real growth in their songwriting, bolder choices, more dynamic structure, lyrics that hit deeper. It's exciting to watch a band not just maintain their warmth and harmony-driven aesthetic, but also to evolve with it. And Upstate continues to push forward. If this set was any indication, whatever's coming next could be their most complete and compelling work. If you want to find their stuff, go check out Royal Potato Family. We love Royal Potato over here, and this is one of the bands on their roster. All right, let's move on to the Kitchen Dwellers. I mean, what more perfect spot than the slopes of a mountain in the afternoon, blue sky, full sun? Could you ask for but the Kitchen Dwellers? Loose and focused, full of heart, dialed into their sound, the surroundings, and the crowd. It can only happen, I think, in a beautiful outdoor setting like this. They opened up with Smokestack, a tune that rides that line between deep roots and modern jam grass. There's a lived-in ease to it, like it's been written for this setting. Melodies just floating on the breeze. We got Pendulum, followed it. It's one of those lyrical gut punches with Speak from the Heart and Don't Speak Too Well, raw, a little vulnerable. And I feel like it hit just right at that spot in the daylight. There's no hiding behind effects or atmosphere. It's just a pure connection that they make with their audience. Then we got Chest Fever, and I know you may be thinking like I did, Chest Fever, that's one of the greatest organ songs ever written, but they really did make it their own. I think the vocal is what carried it. It was gritty, it had swagger, it kicked the energy up a little bit of a little notch. You saw the crowd kind of move toward the stage. You know that phenomenon. Oh, this band is doing it. And then Gypsy, which was a highlight for me. I mean, another the lyrics again. She sure looks pretty. Golden earrings. Keep my distance for fear of losing a fragment of my soul. Something to that effect. Really, really good stuff. And it just shows that they're as much about the story and the songwriting as they are about the shred. It's the kind of song that invites you in rather than overwhelm you. From there, they tried to overwhelm a little. We got Mountain, Cabin Pressure, Paradise Valley, Mountain. The first pass through Mountain felt expansive and patient, like you were kicking back watching clouds roll across the mountains there. Cabin Pressure picked up the pace. It was tight, playful, before it slipped seamlessly into Paradise Valley. And by the time they circled back to Mountain, it felt earned, like they had closed the loop on a journey. They ended with an even higher energy note with Rancid's Time Bomb, scrappy, fast, fun. The kind of closer that doesn't want to just wrap things up, but puts an exclamation point on what they're doing. It wasn't a flashy set. It didn't need to be. The Kitchen Dwellers leaned into their strengths, sharp songwriting, rich instrumental chemistry, and the ability to tap into the vibe of a place and time. This was afternoon gold, music that felt rooted, real, and ready to evolve. All right. All right. Fresh off last weekend's electric show at Northlands, Karina Rykman and her band took the stage with the same intimate spark and subtle intensity, picked up right where they left off. I love what she does because it feels familiar in the best way. And, hearing this set, it felt like I was reuniting with someone I had a conversation with last week. The set echoed the arc of Northlands, beginning with a gentle spark, building intention and emotion, closing with vibrancy. JRAD was in the 3 spot again. I love it. Bright chords, sense of forward motion. It's one of those songs that feels like joy on the wing, hopeful, spring-loaded, and wholly alive. All You Wanted slow things down, intimate, lyrical, heartfelt. It has a kind of emotional gravity, and she really carries it through in the performance. Heartfelt phrasing, a hint of vulnerability, and a chorus that lands you right where you need to be. Riverside Drive, back towards warmth and reflection. I like subtle melancholy. I like nostalgic lines on gentle rhythms, as much as I like shred and I like dark stuff. They got the Ween cover in, spring theme, good arrangement, familiar, but reinterpreted, and it shows their deftness at genre blending and reinterpretation. Got a City Kids too, which I love. It's the 2-step, absolutely just makes you want to move. It's pure release, touch of grit, but communal. And again, we're back to community and bringing everyone together. Listening to this band, even hearing them a few months ago and listening to them now, and the added confidence they're playing with, there's this next level subtlety, turning a quiet moment into a promise, a cover into a reflection of their voice. Tonight, if last week was a hint of where they were going, I think tonight confirmed that direction. Deeper emotional footholds, larger dynamic arcs, and a willingness to stretch. It's not a band content with good enough, but determined to find new layers set by set, night by night. Next up, we got Joe Russo is Almost Dead. The solstice, it felt right having Joe Russo be the main closer on this first night of the festival. Lots of dead tunes like we always get, but there are a few little neat things in there. We got a Link Ray tune. Let's run through it. The band opened with Tennessee Jed, tried and true choice. It sets the tone, it's loose but grooving. It has a little bit of a swagger to it. They eased into it, letting the crowd settle into the beat, letting the music breathe. Then we got Good Lovin', had a little twist with a starting bass intro that added a funk edge before launching into a more traditional reading of it. They do lean on the Dead's arrangement, and it creates this pulsing energy that gets everybody up. Here Comes Sunshine. That's when things really opened up, I guess. They stretched it. They let the jam spill out, swirl. The transitions were smooth. Russo steering the groove while the melodies danced on top. It really was sunshine. From there, they dipped into Dylan's Tell Me Mama. It hits different. I love that they do it. It's raw or more biting energy than the rest of the set, less polished, a bit of a punk sneer in the middle of psychedelic soul, maybe. The band leaned into the grit here, and it paid off. Then Fire and Brimstone, Link Ray cover that the Neville Brothers did. The Neville Brothers do a really good version of that, but not as swampy, dirty, and perfectly placed as this was in the middle of the set. Then we went back into the Dead stuff. We got the Uncle John's Band, Eyes of the World. Eyes of the World is always a fantastic place for this band to showcase, their best jazz tin, space aware, just a little off the axis style of playing, and it keeps you listening very close. Closed out the set with Dancing in the Streets because summer's here and the time is right. Next up was Khruangbin. Really was smart to put Khruangbin at the end, going late night, because they just glide through a series of grooves and textures, and it's meditative, it's cosmic, and they're really locked in. They're really good at what they do. They did a set list that spanned their full discography. There were some deep cuts in there. They opened up with the infamous Bill from Ollie, their 22 album. It set the tone, warm, hypnotic, grounded into deep musical dialogue between different cultures. They moved into Dern Kala, one of their earliest gems off The Universe Smiles Upon You from 15. You could feel the audience begin to just settle in. It was the start of a journey that built on fluid transitions and an almost psychic interplay between the trio. August 10th, we got Pon Pon, we got Juegos y Nubes, all from their latest LP, A La Sala, and each one being really a testament to how their sound has evolved. Their songs are lighter, they're more spacious, they're more melodic, but they still grounded in that unmistakable groove. They did Hold Me Up, Thank You. Mid-set, they got into the more established classics, Mr. White, Lady and Man. And then we got So We Won't Forget, which hit really hard. It's rare that a Khruangbin song that wears its emotional weight on its sleeve like that. The delivery was fragile, but really purposeful at the same time, because it's part lullaby, part memory. Then we got a Love International that added a contrast because it's a little bit slinky, a little bit danceable, a little bit on the smooth tip there. They saved their most infectious tracks for the end. Evan Finds the Third Room, which is silly and playful and so tight. Their stage presence is just electric. They're moving around. They have all that space. There's just the three of them. Time You and I delivered its iconic pulse, a little bit of a modern disco maybe influence groove. People Everywhere, Still Alive. It was the perfect final message, I guess. Rhythmic, communal, and open-ended. The band left the stage not with a bang, but with a sense that the night's energy was still echoing off the trees. So it's almost like they're talking in a language that you don't normally hear or speak because of the diverse influences that they bring into it. But just fantastic. Absolutely loved it. All right, we'll see you for day 2. Saturday was Guitar Phenom time. It opened up with Shane Guerrette. He's a blues guitarist, vocalist, songwriter from upstate New York. The sound has it's a little bit Delta blues, a little bit soul, has that lo-fi feel working. I could really hear some Gary Clark, some Black Keys in there, little Otis Redding maybe. He really good songwriter. Guitar forward blues, think crunchy tones, swampy riffs, tasteful solos, bluesy without being stuck in tradition. And I'm not sure what the songs were that he played. I reached out and did not hear back from him, but really like the first one, it was a blues rocker out the gate. And the third song was like this great Gary Clark Jr. Black Keys mashup. So if you haven't checked him out, make sure that you check him out. And let's move on to another guitar phenom, Miss Grace Bowers.
Okay.
All right. Grace Bowers really loved what was going on there. She kicked off her set with a seamless 1-2 punch of Hollywood swinging and played that funky music that basically laid a foundation for what she was going to do for her whole set. Then they dove into their own material. They did Contact High, which is really locked down, razor sharp song. Shine with Grace on vocals. She's stepping up there a little bit. The mid-set highlight was Nosy Parker, which I guess is a brand new track. Big attitude, bigger groove. If Jeff Beck had ever teamed up with early Rod Stewart in a garage with Prince on rhythm, it might have sounded something like this. The song builds swagger, grit, unexpected turns, probably my favorite part of the night. Then we got another standout was Holding On to Something, which got full reprise, extended instrumental jam. It allowed Grace to step into the spotlight and cook. The crowd was all in. You could see everybody dancing, nodding, pointing every time she leaned into a solo. They closed the set with Tell Me Why You Don't Do That, into a little bit of Give Up the Funk, Tear the Roof Off the Sucker. And it really accentuated that while Bowers and crew are making something new, they never forget where the groove came from. So let's get into the band a little bit, and then we'll move on to the next band. Minnie Dosaline on vocals is really the revelation. Her voice will drag you out of the darkness, dust you off, and hand you a cigarette. She's equal parts preacher and soul assassin, and her and Grace together is like, think Page and Plant if they grew up on Erykah Badu and Betty Davis instead of British blues. Really just one of the most fantastic things that I've ever come across that I didn't know I was going to experience. Prince Parker is the rhythm guy, and Brandon Combs is the drummer. I'm not sure about the names of the bass and keys players, so don't shoot me. It wasn't just a strong set. It was a launchpad moment, I feel like, for her. Anybody who's watching this, she needs to get it out there to everybody that there's a difference between talented and being ready, and I feel like she's ready. The blues chops, she's got completely down, but it's the funk, the soul, the rock that she throws in. The making the bodies move. You looked out at the crowd, you saw people shaking their butts. It's going to make her something bigger than just a guitar phenom. And the songs, I mean, they have weight. She's leading a band that feels like a family and performing like she knows the world is watching. So if you weren't there, start paying attention. She's not part of the future. I think she's building it, which I tell you what, I didn't know anything about Torres. It's the stage name of a person named Mackenzie Scott, Georgia-born, Brooklyn-based singer-songwriter, and it's not really my cup of tea, but I tell you what, it was bold, it was pushing things forward, and I will give her that. It seemed very personal, and I love Laura Nero with all my heart, and I got some of those vibes. There was the imagery. She had a really great way of painting the picture for you in your mind. So, almost making something that would be considered intimate more universal and cosmic maybe at the same time. So, all right, let's get into the set list a little. As much as I could figure out, a couple tracks off of 3 off of What an Enormous Room, her latest album. Are You Sleepwalking, Bottom of the Bottle, and Sylvia. And they all seemed like they were controlling a little bit of the chaos intensity, and it was simmering a little bit just below the surface. Really a fine line between power and vulnerability, and I appreciated that. And I tell you what, at some point it seemed like Mackenzie Scott became less of a performer and more of a conduit, and that's when I was really getting into it. She seemed to move instinctively with every note that the band was playing, and really special stuff. It was. If you like this kind of music, then I think that she's a stalwart of that. The newer tracks seem like very immersive and hypnotic. They maybe all ended abruptly. Maybe she's in the Trey Anastasia school of bringing a song to an end. Um, but much of her new material, she got a lot of that in. She went back to Spinster for Cowboy Guilt, which is a really cool song. You should pull up the video of that outside of watching the set. And then the last thing she did was a song called Helen in the Woods. And man, it was intense. You know, in my limited knowledge of what she does, this is, to me, I think what she represents to the world. It was fierce and wild, and it seemed like a really great way to end the set. So we're going to go with 2 thumbs up for that. And then we're going to talk about my man. And then we're going to talk about my man, Michael Franti. Wow. It's the first day of summer, and you need a band to come out mid-afternoon and light up a crowd. Who you going to call? You're going to call Spearhead. I mean, do you really have many other choices? No Goose fans. Goose doesn't count. So I first came in contact with Michael, his music, when he played with Charlie Hunter in the Disposable Heroes of Hypocrisy. And they had a song called Television, the Drug of the Nation, and MTV Video, the whole thing, very sharp, critical, lyrical precision. Just a brilliant lyric, brilliant piece of work there. And we fast forward 3 decades, and I feel like that Michael's message is the same. It's just how he's expressing it, because the message is now protest and uplift, but his intent remains clear. So at Mountain Jam, we open with I'm Alive, really high energy thing. From there, we got Better, Good Day for a Good Day. I mean, you get the theme here. With every 6th or 7th pair of shoulders supporting a small kid. He had all these kids out. He went out onto a stage in the middle. I mean, it was a family affair. And why didn't he do Family Affair? We got Sounds of Sunshine, Everyday Saturday, Stay Human, All the Freaky People. I mean, he has a real message there. And if you haven't heard him, it's really like folk, funk, rap, soul, and a little sprinkling of reggae. You expect more reggae than it is. You know, some artists with this kind of uplifting message get bogged down in the repetition of every song being like this, but Franti's just animated, interactive, sincere. I mean, there's a belief as he carries it forward. Big Love, he brought out his son Cap, wished him a happy birthday. Simply fantastic. Shine, after Say Hey I Love You, really was, again, a great way to end a set. Whoever's writing the sets for all these bands across Mountain Jam, and last week on Northlands too, you guys are nailing it. So we got to send a big shout out to Spearhead there. And we're going to move on to Trampled by Turtles. All right. Wow. For the next 2 bands, I knew their names, never listened to them. And watching it this morning, because obviously I was watching Fish last night. Wow. Songwriting. It made songwriting the complete theme of the first 2 days. And there were Twilight Skies on the Catskills, and out comes Trampled by Turtles, and they bring heart and harmony, I think, is their key words. They're from Minnesota, 6 of them. They blend bluegrass with contemporary folk, but not in the same way that, say, a Kitchen Dwellers does. And it was deeply felt, no frills performance that reminded everyone how potent a lineup of strings and voices can be. They opened up with Walt Whitman, which I was like, oh, Walt Whitman, that's a cool name for a song. I know that guy. And you could see the band and the audience come together in that instant. It was a raw, organic, and honest thing, like where people are like, oh, I get this. I know where this is coming from. Blades of Grass. The set went starting over from their 2024 Always Here EP. There was maybe a quiet resilience. Maybe they got a text message about what was going on in the world. You Never Let Me Down, same release, same kind of feeling, a little introspection earlier in the set. Midnight on the Interstate from Stars and Satellites really was that moment where the crowd pulled forward that we've talked about before. It's really plaintive. Is that a good word for the melody? Reflective lyrics, and it really was a nice setup for Victory, which followed it, which is really slow building and soaring, and it really showcased the band's ability to balance tenderness and tension on some levels. They broke out Wild Horses, which, God, one of the Rolling Stones' best bluegrass tunes, if nothing else. And really, it was stripped down very, the lyric itself lends to a lot of emotion, and they completely lean into it. It fit their sound seamlessly. We got New Orleans, Bloodshot Eyes, Whiskey. I love the dark shuffle with Whiskey. And then Where's My Mind from the Pixies, and a little Alone to close. Really, I was enamored after walking away from that set, and I never listened to them. And I tell you what, if they ever want to go on tour with Mountjoy, that is a tour that I will be at. All right. I mean, I don't know what to say about Mountjoy. I really fell in love with a new band last night. They just put out an album, Hope We Have More Fun, and they just confidence, energy, and really a fantastic set list. I've spent a couple hours digging into their set list, what they play, listening to a few songs here and there, and really the set list balanced new material and fan favorites. And little background, they're Philadelphia-based indie rockers, indie groove rockers, and they're in the middle of a headlining tour, but they stopped by Mountain Jam, and really out the box, they did Lemon Tree, Orange Blood. Orange Blood is from their 2022 album, which is named that, and both of those songs are fantastic. Then Jenny Jenkins, locked in at this point. The crowd was locked in, and they never let up from this point. They did Let Loose early in the set, fourth song, and went into I Know You Rider out of nowhere. And a China Cat worthy I Know You Rider, where they were jamming and it switched gears, and they were playing a different song before you could even process what was going on. Sheep was next, which mentions Baltimore, so God bless them for that. And usually that's earlier in the set, but it seemed like it was a great slow song, what we would call a slow song with a fish set in the middle of the set, and then followed up with I'm Your Wreck, which, I mean, it carried through what you had with Sheep, vulnerability, a little bit of that thing with a driving rhythm. Then they got Rearrange Us, and then went into In the Middle. It's a new song, God Loves Weirdos, which God bless them for the title of that one. And, I think that embraced, from looking through what they do, their spirit. Coyote was probably one of my favorites from this night, and apparently it's on the new album, and it has a really deep groove that they lock into. Then they went to the back end of the set list, and they hit Julia, Dirty Love, and then Mountjoy, and another Grateful Dead nod with a little bit of Casey Jones. It was just the verse and just the chorus, but they ended Mountjoy with that. Then Strangers, which their keyboard player Jackie is, the piano riff in the beginning of this is just beautiful, and it almost cut through what the rest of the band was doing and across the crowd. We got Lucy and Pink Slip, which are both new songs. Lucy apparently is about someone with cancer, is what they were saying. Pink Lady was pretty cool. Obviously, we had the pink lights. Then we got Teenage Dirtbag from Wheatus, which, had everybody acting like they were back in 2001. The end of the set really was fantastic for me. Highway Queen which is a recent addition apparently to the repertoire, but it sounds timeless. It's one of those Billy Strings moments where you're like, was this written yesterday or was this written 100 years ago? Bathroom Light, I wasn't that big on, but apparently that's a huge song for them. And then Astrovan, they had Grace Bowers come out, guitar phenom and fantastic songwriter in her own right, to play some guitar on that. And they closed with Silver Lining, which really, I guess, in my short time knowing what this band does, seemed like a great way to close the set. It had the emotion, it had the energy, and it had a whole lot of joy. Next up, we're going to get into Sunday and Michaela Davis. All right, first up. All right, Sunday we opened up with Michaela Davis and Southern Star, and wow, I didn't realize the depth of what she was doing. You know, she shows up a lot at these Grateful Dead things as a sit-in and things like that, but this band had a quiet confidence that comes from years of playing together, and wow, what a set. It was equal parts dreamy, earthy, and deeply musical. The band really created this lush atmosphere, the harp and pedal steel weaving together kind of this psychedelic shimmer that felt tailor-made for opening on a Sunday. Michaela's classical training met jam band instincts head on, and it resulted in textures that felt both composed and completely alive. By the time they hit Promise, things had really settled into a pocket. The song's blend of soul and subtle fire showed why it's become a standout in their live sets. Slow burning, heartfelt, plenty of space for the band to stretch. The Wrong Way and River followed, with the former leaning into a tight rhythmic groove and the latter offering a chance for the pedal steel and harp to converse in swirling improvisational lines. River in particular felt like the emotional centerpiece, patient, immersive, and quietly powerful. Later in the set, Other Lover delivered a hook-heavy moment of clarity, showcasing the band's knack for melody without sacrificing their exploratory edge. Throughout the set, Michaela and the band let the music breathe. No need for flashy solos or forced beats. They let each song find its own shape, often ending with subtle transitions and improvisational detours that felt completely organic. Really, really fantastic stuff. And some of these people at this festival are so young. Michaela, yesterday, Grace Bowers, that guy Shane, just wow. All right, Dogs in a Pile. Michaela has worked with Dogs in a Pile before. Dogs in a Pile came out swinging with a set that didn't just entertain, it really evolved. This is the first time I've sat down and did the deep dive, paid attention to everything with them. You know, they do a lot of YouTube streams for free, and it'll be one of these, catch a song or two and then move on to the next thing. But this, I buckled in, and the first notes of Look Johnny 2, the band made it clear that they were here to explore and expand and that they weren't going to play it safe. They followed it with Look Johnny. It was strong, carrying this restless optimism, better than yesterday, this world, but quickly opening up into a classic Dogs in a Pile terrain. The shimmering guitars, the clavinet color, rock solid rhythm anchored by the bass drums. It's bright, tight, and bursting with life. 116 Days was up next. It kept the momentum rolling, serving as a bridge between the opening energy and the heart of the set. But really, what stood out was New Speedway Boogie. Great choice for a song, and they had Molly Tuttle come out and join them, and not just as a guest. It was like she was part of the band for a few minutes. Her contribution was electric. She sang one verse, dropped a ripping acoustic solo that added a whole new texture to the dog sound. It wasn't flashy, it was smart, and it made you want to hear more of that mix. Then came Nicoletta's slow burn blues torch song that bloomed into a jam that was equal parts moody and ecstatic. It pushed blues into jazz, into rock, into something blissful, but edged classic jam band alchemy. The song has personality. It's a really, really good song. I'm not sure who in the band wrote it, but fantastic stuff. Then we got Chop Suey into some of the into true jam territory. It might have been the high point. It came in hot, from the start. I mean, lean, confident, absolutely lock in. They wove in threads of new speedway into the jam. It, I had it pretty loud, and the speaker actually fell off of my shelf while we were doing this. The speaker was okay though. I will report the speaker was okay. They closed out with Trunk Rum, and really, I guess a master stroke. It tied all the themes together, every texture, jam, detour, it all landed in that fully form. I mean, they didn't just throw down. They curated a set with shape, texture, and intention. It was a fantastic festival set. If you had never heard them before, there was something in there for everyone. It felt planned but unpredictable, and really with the collaboration like Molly Title and the fearless song choices, they showed just how broad their palette is and how deep they're willing to go. Make sure you watch for them in the future. And then next up was Molly Tuttle. This was only the third show with her reconfigured band, and they sound like that they've been road tested and they're ready to go. It was a set that showcased not only Molly's songwriting and technical brilliance, but also the surprising versatility of her new outfit. A band that's as sharp in its quiet moments as it is during the full tilt jams. They opened with Everything Burns, a shimmering statement of intent from her upcoming LP, one of 3 tracks premiered live for only the third time ever. The second song followed. It had a line, "Till the wheels fall off, the highway knows I love you." I'm guessing that's what the title was. Then came a perfect cover choice, "She's a Rainbow" by the Rolling Stones. It was strategically placed, serving both as a familiar entry point for new listeners and a technical showcase for the band. Molly's fingerpicking was clean and expressive, her fretwork dancing effortlessly over the classic melody. Over the Line, a tune from the Golden Highway era, grounded the set with its rhythmic swing, bridging the old lineup with this new one that segued into "That's Gonna Leave a Mark," where Tuttle slyly swapped in Mountain Jam for Tennessee in the lyric. A fun little local nod that got a cheer from the crowd. Lyrically, the track released as a single just weeks prior is all about persistence and scars that shape you. The storytelling really, though, hit its stride with a song introduced as a tale of Ellen, a little out of hand with a bottle in her hand. Tune felt like a modern folk tale, complete with a concise but cutting solo from guitarist Ellen. Before the next number, Tuttle took a moment to introduce the band: Vanessa on bass, Megan on drums, Mary on keys, and Ellen on lead guitar. Where Did All the Wild Things Go kept the set list moving with its wry charm and a hangover anthem. Passed out in a Porter John, "Let's Blow This Down." That's so fantastic. Then San Joaquin performed center stage around a single mic classic Bluegrass style. Really tight harmonies. The intimacy that you get from doing that is fantastic. Then came the afternoon's biggest surprise. I mean, I guess we knew that Molly had played with Ringo Starr, but they busted out Octopus Garden. Molly did tell a little story about recording with Ringo and how it shaped her interpretation, and it was a really fantastic choice. You know, people think of the Beatles, they don't think of that song as the one to cover. Then they got down with Dooley's Farm. It was really a filthy, fuzzed out little jam section in it, and Old Me, New Wig followed, an unapologetic rocker that leaned fully into the theme of reinvention and letting go. And then Molly went bald for the last couple songs. I did not realize she had alopecia and that she had lost her hair at a very young age. And I was like, you go, girl. That's just such a power move for her. Crooked Tree closed the main set with Molly Riley referencing the alopecia in the intro. Went bald, wrote this song, Crooked Tree and all. It was personal. It was deeply personal. And, you know, vulnerability is strength, maybe in that moment. Just fantastic. Last song was Take the Journey. It's hopeful. I guess it's hopeful. I guess she left us with something hopeful. She empowered us, and then someday you'll make it back home again. It was really a perfect closer. Fantastic set list. A third songwriting, just brilliance. The third person third act today, 3 incredible songwriters, or I'm not sure how Dogs in a Pile works. I guess they share the duties, but just fantastic. It shows that jam bands and that space can be a lot more than just uh boy man god poop kind of thing. Mo hit the Mountain Jam stage like the road tested legends they are, seasoned veterans who are coming at you with some new life. Decades into their career, they still manage to strike a balance between playful improvisation and sharp songwriting, and this set proved they've lost none of their edge. They opened with the Tin Cans and Car Tires favorite, and it set the tone, upbeat, fluid, full of that signature twin guitar chemistry between Al and Chuck. Ups and Downs, the new Rob song followed. Rob's bass just, creates this framework. Just fantastic. I like the postage stamp line in it. It's the band's Rob's lyrical wit is on display there. We also got All in Stride, a tune that Nate brought to the band. There was a memory of Elizabeth Reed that was just simply fantastic, and I guess a nod to Mountain Jam's beginnings. And they closed with Rububula, a set ender that never fails to deliver. It was winding, expansive, and rhythmically rich. It brought the crowd full circle, closing out a performance that reminded everyone just how good this band still is when the lights go down and the jams open up. God bless them. All right. I guess we've all been waiting for. I swear this picture looks like they have money floating around them. All right. Goose was the only band that got to play 2 sets, and they closed out the festival. It might be one of the best shows they played all summer. I only watched the first 10. I just couldn't keep up with it with everything else going on, but simply fantastic. Killing Moon, Echo and the Bunnymen tune. Yeah, interestingly, Echo was the name of the drum machine. The Bunnymen were the rest of the people in the band. First time since 24, and then they just locked in. Yeti, Jive 1, fantastic back-to-back pairing to set the tone for the rest of the set. And then they brought Michaela Davis out for Rosewood Heart, and excellent choice of songs, Goose, to have her play on. And then they went into Radiohead's Weird Fishes, which Davis really elevated into full Dreamscape territory. Simply fantastic. The rest of the Jive suite wrapped up the first set, Jive 2 into Jive Lee, and it was vintage Goose. Tight transition, textured layering, just enough chaos to keep it interesting. Really, that first set was really, really solid of them. Set 2 opened up with Hunger Sight, paid off. Really a seamless segue into Echo of a Rose, and then I guess the emotional peak of the night was next. The really breathtaking transition into the Nationals' Blood Buzz Ohio, a cover that I don't know, it just really hits hard when they do it. Something special about that. Maybe because they don't treat it like a novelty. They'd explored it. They let it stretch out. There was some excellent phrasing from Rick during this. They let the rhythm breathe a little bit, and it went back into Echo of a Rose. They closed out the set with the Empress of Organos, a patient burner that let each member carve space while loosely holding the structure. And then they came back, did an encore, Don't Do It by the band. Always a great choice. I wish there had been a band with horns there, though, so they could have had some horns on it. I really want to hear that with horns. It kind of it was good. It brought the whole weekend to a close. I think it was a nice choice to finish off their sets and also to close the festival. I mean, with a guest like Michaela Davis and a set list that mixed up daring covers and deep cuts, I think Goose showed up to Mountain Jam not just to play, but to leave a mark, to say, yes, we deserve to be the closer with 2 sets of this festival. Really fantastic stuff. Overall, it was another incredible year for Mountain Jam. I'm glad that they're back after 6 years. Hopefully it was successful enough that we get it again next year. And if you're watching this later, like, subscribe, think about becoming a member, turn on those notifications so you can see all our great content, and we'll talk to you soon.
fascinating. Absolutely fascinating.